Hi all, we have a new and very exciting tournament at the moment, the Gashimov Memorial tournament between April 17th up to 26th of April. A star-studded cast: Magnus Carlsen, Fabiano Caruana, Vishy Anand, Anish Giri, Wesley So, Vladimir Kramnik, Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, Mamdaryov, Michael Adams and Mamedov. So a fantastic lineup. I'll take a round one game which has just been finished, a fantastically exciting game. Wesley So was playing white against Anish Giri and kicked off with c4. So, or rather Giri, played g6 here, and we have e4, e5 and a quick d4 now. Usually here black plays the move d6. That's the most frequently used move. For example, game continuation like this, and we have this sort of position is quite often the result. But in this game, actually, we see a very interesting alternative: knight f6. Black is interested potentially in playing for knight takes, and bishop e4 check could come in handy. The bishop has not yet fianchettoed, has not yet committed itself. We see d takes e5. Wesley So is testing this whole concept. One downside is that this bishop is crucial for the dark squares around the king side if black's going to castle later. Is it going to go back to base? Is it going to defend these dark squares? We see knight takes e4, and now bishop d3, not minding. Bishop b4 check. So it has a flavour to it of a Budapest gambit in some respects, but with g6, this position. We see black playing bishop b4 check now, and we're already really quite a way out of light, but not too many games even from this position, just at move 5. Just for a moment here, knight takes e4 is such a rare move. Bishop d3, yeah, it splits. There's just a very few games here after bishop b4, but a very interesting move in this position, and we're really in creative new territory. Just at move 6, who would imagine a game between two super GMs at move 6, king f1. We're in very interesting territory. Black seems to have combined fianchettoing with moving the bishop out. White does seem ready with the h-pawn here. The rook is naturally placed for an h-pawn attack. For the moment we see knight c5, which blocks in the bishop on this diagonal. And if only bishop g5 was possible, this would actually be winning the queen. We see this move knight f3, so bishop g5 is actually a significant threat to handle. And there's a temptation perhaps to take on d3 here, but knight takes d3 doesn't really achieve much. This wasn't played. In fact, in the game, black played knight e6 here, not yet castling. If knight takes d3, queen takes d3, although white loses the bishop pair here, the control of d5 is quite good, the frontal pressure, and white's still got very active pieces and an aggressive position, it seems. And also again, the dark squares look a bit suspect with the bishop here. So black actually played knight e6, and that seems for a moment solid enough. a3 asking the bishop to go back. It goes back to e7. It really has to cover the dark squares. It doesn't go back to f8 though. You might find that interesting. But if it went back to f8, it might have to get out of the way later for black's castle. So knight c3, and we see d6. Black is again not castling here. If Anish Giri did castle, this looks good for white. Just bishop h6, followed by h4. Although in some respects you might think this is crude. White's pieces are really well placed there, and white's control of d5 is nice. White has some positional trump cards here. It's from a position of strength, so it's not really compromising white's position, and it's just adding more pressure to black's already fragile structure here. So this seems really justified. If black had immediately castled, he delays it, d6, and we have e takes d6. So did white really want to lose this e-pawn? Well, let's see. Bishop takes d6. White now plays b4, as though both c5 and bishop b2 are two interesting possibilities now that have been introduced here. So this bishop b2 would be nice. Maybe c5. The bishop goes back to f8. How many times has this bishop has moved? It's amazing. It's moved quite a lot, but it wants to deploy ideally to g7 here. On castling here, or there might be just ideas of h4 or even knight e4, knight d5, bishop h6. It's quite a dangerous position. So black is trying to get the right circumstances for casting, but it does feel that the whole game, it's just so outside of opening theory. It's very improvised by black, and that's a scary position to be in sometimes. So queen e2, and now we see bishop g7. But black hasn't got for the moment any structural weaknesses. It's a symmetrical pawn structure. White has forfeited castling rights. He's kind of committed to using the rook like this later, you know, with h4. Here, after bishop g7, we see actually bishop g5 making use of the pin. So bishop g5 trying to encourage more weaknesses and punish the bishop for not covering this key diagonal. The bishop comes out ready to offer itself, and that would result, you'd think, in these dark square weaknesses being a bit more exploitable. White wants to trade that, surely. Bishop takes, queen takes, and now black is on c3. And you might think, well, one way of playing to defend this might be rook c1. But actually, quite an interesting alternative here. A nifty looking move. Queen d2 instead was played. Now black castles. Rook e1. And one of the points of queen d2 is that one of the knight moves, the queen is well placed for things like queen h6, maybe in conjunction with h4, h5. Already the queen's quite a target. It actually goes back now to d8. And white plays rook d1 to try and set up some x-ray attacks on the queen, which could be handy. And it's a very difficult position, this, it seems, for black, because he's already faced with just a very, very crude attack. Basically, he's got to be able to react to this. And Giri tries for some queenside counterplay here. He plays actually a5. So is white tempted just to go for it? Well, he did. h4 now. Black really doesn't seem to be in a position to play h5. It'll be weakening this structure even more. Just asking for an attack. Well, maybe even getting the rook out is possible. Okay, so we see actually a takes, and move knight d7, trying to use the knights for defensive purposes. But after h5, yes, this is getting a little bit dangerous looking, to say the least. Knight f6. And here, it seems, technically, white is in a really good position for the attack. And also simultaneously to use this x-ray with the move queen c1. This wasn't played, but this would pose, it seems, significant problems for black. For example, queen e7 to get out of the way. Knight d5 is interesting here, getting rid of a key defensive piece, and then just plunging in with queen h6. That would seem, you know, that seems technically a great way to carry on the attack. In the game, actually, we see another strong move, though. We see c5, and this opens up some more possibilities for white. That c4 square later, this diagonal could be useful. If black is relying on fg instead of hg, not to be mated on h8, then this diagonal is going to play an important role. So in that respect, c5 is a great move to get the bishop to c4 later, because then we have a nasty pin on e6. So after c5 we see b6. Perhaps it seems a miserable position here. If black had considered, you know, taking here, this seems to be very dangerous indeed. Just rook takes, for example, queen h6. How does black defend? Something like this. Bishop takes, we're on the queen, we're on the knight. It's a pretty horrendous position to be in. Knight d5. After this, it just seems a very, very bad position for black. So it seems difficult choices here have to be made. So black played b6, and yeah, Wesley just played h takes. So we have f takes, and now this diagonal is very sensitive, but not bishop c4 immediately would allow taking off the queens. We have queen e3, so bishop c4 is coming here. A gigantic pin on that e6 knight is a symptom of having to capture away from the centre to try and not be mated on h8. So queen e7, but now this fantastic pin from white's perspective. Bishop c4. Yes, this doesn't seem very healthy at all, this position. Black took on c5, and white now just simply made it a pawn sack with b5. So black's pawns are fragmented. Very strong pin here. White's going to just build the pressure on the pin, surely. With a move like rook e1 coming up. We have rook b8, trying to perhaps defend like this. Is it too little too late? Also, by the way, if king h8, this might run into another pin. Queen e5 is annoying. And the simultaneous pressure on here means queen g7 is ruled out. We can take on e6. So this is a difficult position for black. So we have rook b8 trying to defend laterally. Rook e1, rook e6. And now, how to celebrate the pin. A fantastic move. Very logical. Can you guess? If I give you 5 seconds. Starting from now. Okay, knight a4, yes. Hitting the rook. And it's going to take on c5, putting more pressure on e6. So rook d6, knight takes c5. Black looks extremely lost here, because this knight can be joined with the fellow knight potentially if, say, rook e8, you'd imagine knight g5. And there's just immense pressure on e6 here. All of white's pieces virtually are cooperating on e6, but also this knight will be cooperating on this one potentially if the knight wasn't defending h7. But e6 pressure looks too much. Black here tried his luck with knight g4. And we have a very precise move here, queen e4. Just threatening the knight, and again, e6. It's pretty lost for black actually now. Anish tried knight takes f2. This is a bit of a cheapo mode here. After king takes f2, black played rook d2 check, hoping perhaps for king g1 or king f1. Let's examine these. In fact, in the game, king g3 was played, which is demonstratively much stronger. If we see king g1, for example, then queen takes c5, check, queen d6 will keep white busy. And here, black can actually defend with rook d1. So e6 isn't falling off because we've got this guy pinned. So bishop takes, queen takes. We can take here. That's not on the cards. So yeah, want to avoid stuff like that. So king g1 would be the worst. King f1 would allow queen takes c5, and even though white would be winning a piece here, he has to deal with f2. And if he deals with f2 like this, we've got this pin to make use of with rook d1 check, which actually draws for black with this repetition of attacking here. So yeah, this is interesting, but yeah, white can just sidestep all this. King g3, unpinning from here, not staying on the f file, still keeping his pin. Black played rook takes f3, and white now just played g takes f3, because it means that the g4 square is supported for queen g4 in case of queen g5. And here, yeah, black actually resigned. So a crushing 32 move game from Wesley So. It's amazing how fast we're in completely new territory in this game as far as opening theory. It seems black was trying to improvise, but Wesley So played a masterful attacking game here. Although it looked kind of crude, I think it was totally justified because white was in a position of strength. In any case, he had the positional upper hand, so it was difficult to defend against this attack. A great start for Wesley So, and he's clearly putting past behind him the controversies of the illegal notes game where he forfeited recently. So congratulations, Wesley So, and what a great tournament we're in for. I hope you'll enjoy the coverage on this channel in the next few days. Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.